Hello, Warrior. My name is Lawrence Stone, and I'm the basic trainer. I want to establish a rhythm to your vision. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning into these weekly emails. I hope you're finding value in them. I hope you're sharing them with others who you believe need the messages. And I hope that there's good things that you're doing with your life moving forward. Today's message is not a message that was even on my radar. It's not a message that I've been thinking about. It's not a message. It's a message that I've only shared with a couple of people. It's something very personal and very close to me. And I think it's one of those messages that you worried what people are going to think when you share it with them. And so for that reason, it's never been a thought. It's never even occurred to me that I need to share it. But I had an experience about a week and a half ago that really pushed me and said, you know, this message, you probably need to share this message. So here I am. And it's a close personal message. It might be a little emotional for me at one point, but I feel very strongly that it's a message that you need to hear as a warrior. So with that, you'll notice the quote is a chorus out of an Alabama song. I believe there are angels among us. I like this song. This is a really good song. It's a powerful song. And I remember growing up, I was taught that there are angels around us to help bear us up, to help take care of us, guardian angels, if you will. And I truly believe that they're around us. But as I've grown older, I've learned a lot about those guardian angels. And I really believe that we know those guardian angels. And what I mean by that is I also believe that there is life after death. And I believe that our spirits, or the spirits of those who have passed on, many of them still dwell here on earth. And they're here as our guardian angels. That's part of what their responsibility is to help us out, to whisper things to us, to give us guidance. They live lives and they have experience, and even as spirits, they're witnessing lives and they're learning things that they can teach us and that they can help us. The problem is while they can get to us sometimes, we need to be able to communicate with them better if we're going to learn from what they have to share with us. And this is where that prompt came to, is I got the impression that they want to help us understand how to communicate with them better. And that maybe with this platform, I can help share a way for you to communicate with them better. So story time now. As some of you may know, any of you who know me or familiar with me know that my wife was in a bad car accident about 11 years ago, back in February of 2012. And in that accident, she almost passed away. And we had a 2-year-old little girl who would pass away, who did pass away as a result of that accident. Our less than a year old son was also in the car, and he checked out of the hospital the next day like nothing had happened, fortunately. But anyone who's lost a child knows what that struggle is like, knows the deep pains and the deep emotions associated with that. And one thing I've learned in my life, and it seems obvious once you realize one of those things that's really obvious, it's like, duh, yeah. But there are probably thousands of conversations, maybe even tens of thousands of conversations that I'm not able to have with my little girl as a result of her passing away. And I miss out on those conversations. And I want to talk to her about things that are happening in my life. And I want to talk to her about what's going on in her life. And because she's passed away, we're not able to have those conversations. And about a year and a half after the accident, I was struggling, as you do. And I remember my wife mentioned to me that she'd had a couple of brief dreams where Ethne, our daughter, had appeared to her. And she didn't say anything, she didn't have any message. It was just dreams with Ethne there. And she found some comfort with those. And I was reflecting on these dreams that my wife had had. Again, no prophetic message. She didn't talk to her. It was just a dream with her there. But how it helped my wife out. And I yearned for that. I remember being in the hospital after she died, holding her body in my arms, and praying with all the strength of my heart, every fiber of my being, that if she couldn't live to stay with us, that she could at least open her eyes for a moment and tell me that she loved me before she was gone. That didn't happen. It didn't matter how much faith I had. It wasn't supposed to happen. And so I'm reflecting on that. And I'm wishing and praying that I could have a dream where I get to see Ethne. And that's not happening. And I'm driving to work one day, and I have this little sedan. And as I'm driving, I keep thinking to myself and praying, I wish I could just talk to Ethne. I wish I could communicate with her. And this voice, this thought came into my head. And it said, then just talk to her. It seemed like the craziest idea at first. How am I supposed to just talk to her? And then this scenario, I could imagine her in the back seat of my car, like she was just sitting there, ready to talk, ready to listen to me. So I started talking. Started telling her how much I missed her, how much her mother missed her, and how much we wish she was still around. I talked to her about things that had happened in our lives since the accident. I told her about how her brother was doing. I told her about what I was doing, changing career. We talked about all sorts of things. At some point, I started asking her how she was doing, and I started pausing, and I felt like I felt those answers in my mind and in my heart. I felt like she was talking to me. Even though I couldn't physically hear her, I could feel her responses. So this became a regular thing for me, that I would start talking to her on my way to work. And I had about a half-hour commute to work. So some of the conversations would take the whole half hour. Some conversations were 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And a while later, my granddad dies. Now, my granddad was 90, 91, somewhere in that area. He lived a long, full life. Okay? And I knew he was going to be gone. Last time I saw him alive, I knew it was going to be the last time I saw him alive. But it didn't necessarily mean that his loss was easy. You see, outside of my parents, my granddad was probably the most influential person in my life growing up. I loved my granddad. He taught me how to work hard. He was a good salesman, so I wanted to be a salesman. He had his own business, so I wanted to own my own business. He was in the field artillery in World War II vet. I almost joined the Army because I wanted to be so much like him. In the end, I didn't, but I was actively talking to recruiters. And even though I'd had so many conversations with him, I wanted to talk to him again. So shortly after he died, I imagined he and Ethne were in my car, and I was talking to both of them. And then later my grandmother would die, and I would have all three of them in the car with me. I can't have more than 3 because I only had 3 places in my car to sit people comfortably. So I'd only talk to 3 of them at a time, maybe. And sometimes it was 1 at a time. Sometimes Ethne wasn't there. My grandparents were there. Sometimes it was another ancestor, a great-grandparent that I'd never met. And it just kept going on, and I had these different people, and all of a sudden I realized there's so many people that I can talk to. And I started doing family history, and I researched other ancestors, like, oh, I want to know about Jabez. I want to meet Jabez. And so he comes and sits in my car, and man, what a great life you led, and I want to know, I want to feel a connection with you. And then we had a stillbirth down the road. I wanted to know that child from the stillbirth as well. And I've had conversations with him too. And then there's been historical figures that I wanted to meet. I've sat down and I've had conversations with George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. I have so many more on my list that I want to go through. Lately I've really wanted to have a conversation with Martin Luther King Jr., and I'm planning on doing that soon. And it's amazing how I'm able to have these conversations. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks so that you can also have these conversations. Come up with a list of people who you can no longer talk to, but who you feel a strong urge to connect with, particularly if they are deceased. And I want you to find time when you're by yourself, whether it's in your car or at home or wherever. And I just want you to say out loud, I want to speak to Ethne. I want to speak to Abraham Lincoln, or I want to speak to Martin Luther King Jr. And then ask them, would you please join me for conversation? And then imagine them, just their spirits coming and sitting down next to you. They fly into the car and they sit down next to you, however you want to imagine it. And start talking to them. Ask them for advice. Tell them what you're going through. If there's just things that you didn't say to them while they were alive that you wanted to say to them, say those things. Finish that conversation. Have those conversations. I still talk to Ethne, not as often as I used to, but I still talk to her at least a few times a year to keep her updated on what's going on in our family. I believe she sees it, but I want to feel that connection and I want to talk to her. Okay? And in your conversations, find moments to pause and listen for responses. They are genuinely trying to communicate to you. Okay? I firmly believe this. I've felt this. I know this. It has happened to me so many times over the last 10 years. It's an amazing process and it's an amazing feeling. Now, it might seem a little bit crazy if I'm the only one getting up here and telling you that this happens and this works. But there are actually other experiences of people having this happen. Credible experiences. In college, right after Ethne was born, before the accident, I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's been a long time since I read it. So last year, I decided to go back and read it again. Last year, I decided to listen to the audiobook. And in it, Napoleon Hill actually talks about basically having a committee of people who inspired him that he can ask questions to. And there's multiple people on this committee, and people he admires like Thomas Edison and Napoleon Bonaparte. And he has this committee, and when he has ideas and he needs help, he goes and he talks to them collectively in a room. And he gets feedback from them. Or he did when he was alive, at least. I think Napoleon Hill would be a great person to have on my committee. I definitely want instruction from him. So, I don't know if there was something about reading that before that kind of sparked it in my mind to start doing that, and maybe that helped trigger that. But it's a credible thing that successful people have done and do. It's something that Napoleon Hill has taught people how to do. And it might not seem to some people as the exact same concept, but it's a pretty similar idea. It's a pretty similar concept. We have guardian angels around us to carry us and to help us out. They do that by communicating to us. So if we want better communication and better protection, we need to be able to communicate to them. You might think it sounds crazy. You might think it sounds hokey. You might think this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, but I'll tell you what, if you get it to try, something amazing is going to happen. If you are genuine and you are honest and you are sincere in your heart and you truly believe that you can get that communication, you will get that communication. So that is your assignment. Go out, figure out who you want to talk to. Block out a half hour of time or more if you need to. I recommend for the first time you do this, have at least a half hour of time. Block it out. Invite someone to have a conversation with you. Have a conversation. Take time to listen to what they have to say. And when you're done, I recommend you write it down in a journal or something. Thoughts and impressions that you felt. Because they're going to give you ideas. You don't want to forget those ideas. So write them down somewhere. That's your challenge with this week's email. I love you. I know You're going to go do amazing things. And as you go through this process, it's going to be incredible. Just watch what happens. Go get it done, Warrior. Thanks. Hello again, Warrior. Quick follow-up. I'm super excited to announce that I've been learning and training with the John Maxwell leadership team to be able to create new curriculum and teach some of John Maxwell's principles and some of his books. And I have a lot of great opportunities to be able to do that now. I'm actually starting this month a business mastermind group. And if you're interested, the first class is free. I will be doing 2 a month that you can come and participate in. This month, it's only going to be one. I'm going to do an online one next week on May 11th, I believe is the date. Yeah. Thursday, May 11th at 10 o'clock. I will include a link in the description of the video, but it's going to be the second Thursday of each month going forward. And that link should allow you to register through most of the year. I'll update it as needed when I create new curriculums and whatnot. But it's a Zoom link to register. And it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for you to be able to network and mastermind together. We'll be masterminding around the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell, a fantastic book with lots of principles to teach you about growing yourself and your company and creating a growth plan. It'll be great. And we'll go over the first law in this mastermind class. And if you want to sign up for additional mastermind classes, we'll talk about it then. I'll also be doing an in-person class the first Thursday of each month, which will start in June. That'll be at 9:30 here in Idaho Falls at the Idaho Innovation Center. If you're interested, I'll have a sign-up form posted for that soon as well. But definitely come, interact with people, mastermind with people. If you have a group of people that you would like to have your own specific mastermind course, we can set that up. Or if you'd like me to come in and teach this to the people who you work with, to your employees, to your team, so that we can help create growth within your organization as well, I'd be happy to do that as well. Reach out to me, thebasictrainer.com. Or thebasictrainer@gmail.com. And I would love to help set up those things and help you grow and help your team advance. Thank you.